The Wavelengths present a conversation with everyday people doing extraordinary things, making the world a better place. Meet Stephanie Congo, teacher, educator, and healer. Stephanie is a yoga teacher and yoga therapist, an Eden energy medicine clinical practitioner, an advanced theta healing practitioner, a shamanic practitioner, a meditation and mindfulness consultant, and she specializes in working with people who have experienced traumatic brain injuries and concussions, pre- and post-surgery candidates, and those with autoimmune conditions and long COVID symptoms. Stephanie has been called a holistic doctor of yoga movement by some of her yoga clients due to her intuitive abilities to meet them where they are physically, mentally, and spiritually. Her energy medicine clients regularly bounce out of her office invigorated, saying, "I feel like a whole new person." Stephanie loves helping people who feel more alive and vibrant in their bodies through the self-loving practices of yoga, breathwork, meditation, mindfulness, and energy medicine. Today, we talk with her about the important work that she does, connecting with people to help them become stronger and healthier, working with kids, adults, and seniors, pieces of her healing journey from her traumatic brain injury, her love of nature and the outdoors, and how important learning and growing is to her personality. We hope you enjoy our conversation with Stephanie.
Hello, I'm Sandy.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
Hi, I'm Jante.
And we are the Wavelengths. Hey, today we're going to be talking with Stephanie Congo, who happens to be a yoga teacher and practitioner and therapist, a yoga therapist, a yoga teacher and practitioner. And she also does energy medicine. She's an energy medicine practitioner. I know she's done stuff with Donna Eden and other long list and long history of doing energy medicine things and a whole bunch of things, starting out with being an engineer 100 years ago. She's not that old, but another lifetime ago. And so we're going to be talking with Stephanie. So hello, Stephanie.
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you for having me today. Engineering does feel like 100 years ago, but that would make me rather old, I think, at this point.
Yes, this is true. So we're glad to have you, and we're glad you decided to switch directions in your life, or switch mostly, I guess. So anyway, so we're going to go ahead and let you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do. And if Sarah or Jante have any questions right now, we'll let them speak.
Well, I know Stephanie has been kind of restructuring things. Is that right?
Restructuring is loose because I do it every day, but yes.
Okay, so I'm curious to know what you're doing right now. What's going on now?
All right. Well, I've got there's a lot of questions here already. So maybe I'll just
start wherever you would like.
Well, let's talk about this engineering to yoga thing for a quick moment. Basically, I was a civil engineer for 12 years. I worked in consulting and transportation planning and design. and had started down my yoga path of healing and just going to yoga to feel physically fit. And one day I woke up and I had all this training under my belt, and I was looking for a part-time job to kind of be partly at home, and decided one day it was just time to leave and start yoga as well as energy medicine. And so how that relates to what I do today, I definitely started in power yoga. Being physically strong and fit was one of my important things for myself. And now I find myself doing more of what's called yoga therapy. So to address Sarah's question, working with people on specific ailments or conditions or pain in their body to help them feel better through yoga, meditation, breath work, mindfulness, as well as all of these energy medicine tools I mentioned, or Sandy highlighted through Donna Eden. So a lot of it is based on self-care. So I'm always trying to teach the people I work with how they can help themselves, right? Because we all just act as guides and as a mirror for the people showing up to us.
That sounds very interesting. Could you give us an example of maybe something more tangible than the description? I mean, the description is good, but I think our listeners would love to know specifics and whether or not, for instance, you do that virtually as well.
I do offer a lot of virtual classes. Right when the pandemic started, I was in a switching mode. I had to switch right away to teach the kids at one of the schools I was teaching at virtually. So they had spring break and we converted everything to Zoom. So then I continued on with some Zoom classes with the kids. So I work with kids, I work with adults, and I also teach yoga to seniors. So a tangible example, like, can you be more specific?
So
Well,
like with virtual yoga class, how do you go about describing, the different types of yoga that you work with? Is it more of like a demonstration and and everyone is, doing the exercise on the screen, like in a small group? How does that work? I'm just curious.
So sometimes I'll do one-on-ones virtually. I do have a yoga studio, so I work with people here on site in Memphis, Tennessee. And then the groups on Zoom, like for example, right now, I just received an international grant from Yoga Alliance. And I am teaching a 12-week yoga program for people that have experienced traumatic brain injuries. So for that particular group, we're meeting once a week for about an hour. And it's a small group, so I can see everybody on my screen and really tailor to what they need in their bodies. So some people have physical limitations and they can't turn their head, and they can't move their arms past their body. So for example, like I'll just give somebody, very small movements that they can do in front of themselves, like I'm moving my hands up and down. And then everybody else will, they'll kind of be a medium, like somebody could do this a little bit further from their body. And then some people could even extend their arms all the way out and then all the way back in front of themselves. So that particular class, I'm getting very good at teaching to 3 different levels of physical ability to meet the needs of the people in the class. Because some people are in wheelchairs and some people are fully able-bodied because they're caregivers for people that have TBIs, or they are also medical providers in this field working at hospitals and other settings.
So it sounds like you're helping them retrain their brain.
Yes. There's definitely a lot of retraining the brain. It's a lot of brain crossing over We do a lot of kind of brain exercises with energy medicine to help balance the energies back up to the head through different energy patterns. It's really repatterning is what we're doing to give the brain a new challenge every time. So I always like to say a good yoga class has balance, strength, and flexibility in it.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely hit on all of those points, whether it's a group class or a one-on-one session.
Sounds like just such a gift that you're providing to people.
It is.
So I already know someone that could use your class. So.
All right. So the one thing I usually get from people is that they feel like a whole new person, whether that's after a yoga class or an energy medicine session. I had one lady, she came every week for a whole year. She would say that after every single week she left my office. It was pretty amazing to have, you know, that level of clarity and shifting every single week after I saw somebody.
So I know that this is this topic is multifaceted, and I'm sure that some of our listeners are curious to know the difference between a yoga class and an energy medicine class, how the two can be combined.
Yes, well, sometimes I only teach yoga. So for example, if I go to like a school district that is just looking for yoga for their teachers, I would basically just do a straight yoga mat class. So working with some of the traditional yoga poses and traditional yoga breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Now I also do specialty small groups. So I have one group of ladies that has been with me now for a couple of years, and every week we're actually blending the energy medicine with yoga poses. And it's been really fun with these ladies because we'll just come up with new topics every 8 weeks or so, 6 to 8 weeks. So right now we're just kind of back to regular chair yoga, but the one we did before this was for weight loss. Some of the ladies were intent on losing weight, so that's what they did, and that's what we did together. Using so energy medicine is more kind of movements, working the energies of the meridians and the chakras,
Yeah.
strengthening the auric field, grounding the person, working with the 5 elements of the flow of Chinese medicine. So I'm really just merging and blending the two, the traditional yoga with these energy postures to kind of get these unique classes.
Sounds like it's never boring.
No, there's never the same class twice. I'll tell you that. Just when I always think, I'm like, what am I going to teach next? I literally, when I start a class, it just drops right down into me what we're going to do. And I never really know. On Monday in the TBI class, we ended up doing a whole class on arms and elbows and extension through the torso. So it was just kind of magic how the people that show up and what I teach just kind of all flows together.
And that's part of what we're all learning to do, is to go with the flow, right?
Right.
So I'm curious, because, you know, I'm the analytical one of the team. Has there been research on efficacy of these techniques with, say, TBI or something comparable? And if so, is it something that maybe even insurance would pay for?
Well, yoga definitely has a lot of studies out that are showing how important yoga is for stress relief and reducing anxiety. And I mean, basically, you name a symptom, yoga is here to help. There's also a lot of research on trauma and PTSD,
Right.
which I'm starting to get into more of that as I working with people in those issues, as I you know, kind of keep slowing myself down, I can really be here for people that are experiencing more extreme stress. And the research on energy medicine, it's a little bit more limited, but I like to call it, it's something where if you feel better after doing something, that's really all the research that I need to know.
Right. And that makes sense.
And it's more of like a 1 point. I think there's a name for it in medical terminology about like just having that 1 point of reference that works for that one person, as opposed to like, because each of us have our own unique blueprint and our own unique energy composition or matrix. So it's really about finding what works for you. And like me, you know, when I started yoga about 20 years ago, I didn't read research papers. I didn't read books about yoga. I went and I did it, and I went back every single week because it felt good in my body.
Mhm.
Well, this is I'm bringing up these questions for a personal reason.
Okay.
Because there's a family member who had fallen and ended up having to have brain surgery because of blood on the brain, hematomas. And this person is not recovering as quickly and as we had hoped, and is not stable. And I know yoga will help with that, as well as massage and all of that. I was just hoping that there was research that would encourage insurance to pay for it.
Yeah, insurance is a whole other story. I think over the next bunch of years, we're going to see insurance starting to cover yoga. I did have a conversation with an insurance agent last year because I have heard people are starting to cover yoga. I'm like, well, who's doing it? So I talked to an insurance agent last year, and at least this particular person researched all of the companies he's worked with, and he did not find anybody that did.
That it is coming.
I think it's coming. If you remember acupuncture, years ago, 20 years ago, we did not cover acupuncture through insurance.
Or chiropractic or massage, and all that's coming.
All those
So
things are.
I think it's coming down the road, and you'll see now that what is it, Silver Sneakers is paid for under is it a Medicaid or Medicare program? Medicare, it's already covered under that. So, and I know a lot of companies are starting to cover gym memberships and offer yoga and other classes to their staff. So I think yoga being under one of those umbrellas, either the staff or either the companies paying for it themselves for classes for their employees, or directly through insurance, or the what are the it's like a pocket of money that you can have.
Oh, like a health
yeah, one of those, I call it a
savings
health
account.
There we go.
Health savings account.
Yeah, it might start with something like that, because I think you could do that with massage now. Is that true, Sandy?
Some things are covered. Some things are covered under massage, but you have to have a doctor's approval and a lot of other stuff, and then you have to take it out of your account and receipts, and so it can be a lot of jumping through hoops, and not everyone and not every plan will cover it. So
but
it's coming, and it's better than it was 20 years ago when I started doing massage. So.
But the thing is that as insurance is starting to cover this, because insurance is always 15, 20 years behind the times in terms of what they know, in terms of what they pay. That just means the fact that this is in the conversation means that it's already been proven that what you do, whether it's before an injury or to help recover from an injury, works. I mean, that's just so fantastic.
Well, and they say too, like if you're going to go into surgery, say for a hip surgery or a knee surgery or something, it's best to strengthen your body first before you go in, and then have your surgery. And then when you're out, use your physical therapy and continue your yoga training to strengthen the body to continue afterwards.
Right.
So that's quite a far cry from engineering, but in a way it's still engineering, but it's of the body.
It is, yeah. And it's definitely still community work, because I've always been big into community work and community involvement, education, teaching. So it's kind of the same thing, but different.
A different angle, yeah.
And Sarah, you mentioned your story, your example you brought up. So some of the training that I've done the last couple of years through Love Your Brain, based out of Vermont, they have been doing studies for a number of years now with yoga for TBIs and concussions specifically. So your example is a little bit different than that, but there is significant research that's been done through that program.
Cool. That's wonderful. It's
So
just
it may
this
be something
person.
that you can,
I'm sorry?
I said it may be something that if you do enough research and prove that it's working, you may be able to get more money, or be able to at least test it out.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking along the lines of turning this person on to Stephanie. So, and hopefully getting, because their independence is very, and of course, you know who I'm talking about. Independence is very important to this person. And I'm thinking what you do, Stephanie, is potentially, I mean, obviously it depends on the person as well and whether or not they do the practice. But this may facilitate independence that this person is looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So, because even with brain damage, we know that we can rewire everything.
The brain
As long
is
as we have a brain.
Well, I guess there's that, but yeah, neuroplasticity is something that we're learning a lot about today, and that the brain, it never stops learning.
Right.
It's always growing and changing, and we adapt with it.
So, well, that's quite a gift you're providing to people. Quite a service.
So you also, I mean, you said you do work with children, and then you work with seniors. So how did you start working in the schools and working with children and having a class for a school, or and then what's the difference between the young and the old? And how do your classes sort of differ? How do you tailor your classes differently?
So I've been working with kids for well over 25 years. I started in summer camps when I was in high school, day camps, as well as outdoor stay over residential camps, leading rock climbing trips and teaching kids how to set up tents and go out into the woods and rock climb, and teach them knots and how to, tie their rock climbing shoes. So that was really fun in high school and college. And then I got into teaching kids engineering camps. So I was counselors for Math for Me camps. Even my little sister came one time up in Maine at the university there. So I've done kind of math, engineering work. I've helped kids make little solar cars that they raced at the end of the year with the Girl Scouts. And we also did, one year they competed in the Sally Ride Toy Challenge in Massachusetts. Sally Ride is an astronaut. And so at the end of the day, it was like this huge gymnasium at, I think it was a girls' college. I'm blanking on the name right now. But my kids had made this dart game. And so everybody that came by our booth, they got to play our dart game, or the girls' dart game. And so we ended up with the People's Award or something, because they were the most innovative and had the most social fun with all the kids. So I was really proud of them. That was really fun. And so kind of shifting from out of the engineering world and into yoga world, it was just natural to keep working with kids. So in some of my trainings, I know one yoga intensive at Kripalu, it was a beautiful weekend of music and yoga. And at the end of it, I was eating like the final meal, and little messages dropped in. You're going to teach yoga to kids. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to teach yoga to kids. And so I didn't really look for it. I ended up in a meditation group with a friend of mine, Becky, who ended up being a retired kindergarten teacher. And guess what? She was teaching yoga to kids. And so I was the yoga teacher, she was the teacher. And so we partnered and we taught trainings for all the teachers in her school. And then we brought yoga weekly to all of the kids. And so the entire school got yoga for that semester. So that was a really great partnership for both of us to share our love of yoga and our love of kids together. And so that was in Vermont, and moving to Memphis, I naturally just found a few other schools to work with here. Yesterday, we are starting to conclude our semester program at Grace St. Luke's up the street here from where I live. They're second and third graders. And so the theme this semester was nature and yoga. And one of the kids, we were outside for yoga in the grass, and one of the kids found a little baby bird under one of the bushes. And so we spent our yoga class caring for the little bird and finding it food to eat. And it was pretty cute because one of the girls was like, we would rather save the life of a bird than do yoga.
Oh,
So I think the yoga has seeped into their cells, because that is a very yoga thing to say, right? Caring for another living being as ourselves. So now I get the joy of working with some wildlife rehabilitators and feeding the bird a little bit, working with them and watching it grow. So I just love sharing my love of nature with these kids. I really, this session, my goal has been to let the kids play a little bit more. And so I've just been sort of the container holding these ideas for yoga poses and how to play with games and take them outside. And it's been neat because they'll just come up with things. They'll just start doing cartwheels when they come into class. And I'm like, all right, well, how can we make this a little, more of a game? So they'll line up like 3 yoga mats in a row, and they'll do, you have to have hands on one, feet on another, and, just kind of how they land, and they'll just keep going around in circles. So I'll give them time frames, or we'll play music and they have to run and stop. And so it's been, sometimes they just kind of take it off on their own, and they'll just love to be creative and create their own things. And I think that's kind of where education could be going. It's what some of the Montessori schools and some other schools do, right? You sort of like support the kids' play and what they want to learn. And that's what I've been doing with this group of kids. And I think they're doing really well.
That's
Yeah,
very
you can
interesting.
swimming to kids when I was in college, and right after college, and we would play. I would have these classes all planned out, and they ended up being very difficult. And finally I just gave up and I said, fine, we'll just play. Let's do this and let's do that. And so they would start doing it. So I started teaching for years of just letting them play. And then all of a sudden after 2 weeks, it's like, okay, let's take our test. And they would just be totally amazed. Well, we can't take our test. We haven't learned anything. And I would just go down the list to make sure they were guided of, you know, holding your breath and doing this. And it's like, you went and got the pennies. This is what we did. And you can do this. And here's this and this and this and this just by playing this game. And they were like, we know this. And it's like, yes, you do. So once they started playing, they just, they would learn it themselves and practice whatever it is. So yeah, just give them a little guidance and direction and help them along the way. They end up just totally amazed. They've learned more than they definitely thought they did. So
Yeah, that's a fun story, Sandy. I'm glad you did that. But yeah, you definitely have to kind of let go of what your plan is because they have a different plan.
right, the more I tried to wrangle them in and have a lesson plan and we're going to do this, and they would just go, no, I'm not going to put my face in. No, I'm not doing this. And so we'd start playing, and the ones that were reluctant would go, well, maybe I can do that. And they would sort of sneak in and start doing it, and you know, without a lot of pressure on them to do it or whatever they're going to do. So they would just sort of learn on their own and not have to be the focus of anything and just sort of do it in their own time. So it was fun to watch. And so I just, that's how I would started teaching all the way from little babies all the way up to the seniors. And even with the seniors, we played and did a lot of fun stuff.
I think they're learning how to become better leaders this way.
That
And
makes sense.
what's that?
That
I-
makes sense.
Sense.
So
Well, I know how to move your body and all the different moves that you have and how to stretch your body and how that movement makes your body feel is a wonderful gift to give.
So do you find it's a similar thing with the geriatric crowd? Or is that more structured? Or
Yeah, I would say the geriatric crowd, we do. I haven't introduced the idea of unstructured class much. I will do it with some movements for sure, at kind of different times throughout the class, where I'll give options of, okay, now we're going to keep our feet wide and, you know, move your hips and your arms, kind of stretching up and going low. So I'll give a little bit of guidance. It won't be the whole class though. The kids kind of can take over because they already know what they want to do. The older folks seem to like a little bit more structure. But some of the concepts are actually the same with kids and older folks. When I did my golden years yoga training, that's what they were saying is that, you know, you can still use pool noodles, for example. You can use those with the kids and you can use those for older folks in chairs. So some of the concepts, you can definitely bring them back and forth like that.
right.
So did you say that for groups, you know, I know you have groups for kids and older adults. Do you have some classes where they're mixed together in the same group?
Not regularly. I have done some special workshops where I'll do like a parent and a kids workshop together. So we might, like, one of them was teaching the parents and kids how to be work better academically. So a lot of the movements and the partner work we did together was really strengthening them to be stronger students. Yeah, I did like doing those. And at some point it would be nice to offer those to some other schools if there was interest in that.
Or college students, you know, all of the academic overwhelm that they experience.
Yeah, I think yoga is great for anybody, and certainly in college. There was a year or two just before COVID, I was working with some of the Tiger Life folks at University of Memphis. So these are some folks that have some known disabilities and learning issues. And they would come in once a week and we would do, I kind of blended it up. So I gave them a sprinkling of what yoga was, a little bit of Qigong and Tai Chi and meditation and mindfulness. So it was nice to, you know, kind of give them some options of things that they can learn. And then if they like it, they can go further with it down the road.
That's really interesting. It just reminds me of a few times in my life where I've experienced yoga, you know, as a blind person. I'm not going to go too much detail with these stories, but I found that doing the postures more slowly, I mean, because sometimes you get dizzy and out of balance because it's like there's a visual element sometimes with you know, keeping the balance. And so I don't know.
And did you find it helpful?
I found it if I went too quickly, I got really dizzy and I lost my balance. I remember one time at it was a retreat that combined singing and yoga. I had to go and lie down in the grass to regain my balance before I could continue with the yoga.
Okay. But going slowly, it sounds like
anyone who had visual, you know, was blind or deaf or any other
right.
different.
But it sounds like going slower for you was more helpful.
Much more helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are some yogas that go really slowly. Like we call them slow yoga. Where, or even like something like a yin practice might be more helpful for you, where you hold poses for, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes at a time. And it's more on the floor on a mat. So you're more grounded.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more of a stretching practice than the balance and moving up and down all the time, which was not helpful for you.
Right.
So I know seniors yoga, I took that back when I lived in North Carolina. It sounds like it's very much like what you just described, Stephanie, where we're either on the mat or in a chair, and it's a lot of stretching and holding the poses. So is that the type of senior yoga you teach, as well as what you've already shared, or?
I haven't taught much yin yoga lately. Yin is more just on the floor, just on a mat. You can't do much of the yin in a chair just because of the way you have to, you know, open up your chest and move your arms and fold your knees for pigeon and things like that. But I do love teaching yin workshops as well, because it goes, as you hold things longer, you're able to go a little bit deeper into your muscles so they can start to really stretch over, you know, the extra time that you sit with them.
Very cool.
Very.
So do you, if I remember correctly, you also do some videos that you post on YouTube, is that correct?
I do. I have a YouTube channel. It's under my name, Stephanie Congo. I've posted just kind of a sprinkling of the work that I do. So there's a few videos up there with kids yoga and chair yoga. There are some special talks I've given about yoga to holistic nursing associations and to some of the traumatic brain injury support groups across Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure I'll just continue to post more over time, but people can just search Stephanie Congo and you'll see my channel come up. You're welcome to subscribe to that. And my website is stephaniecongo.com.
So of course, we'll have all that posted at the end of this podcast so that people can see it and we speak it so that those who are not visual can also hear it again to make sure that way they can pause and get that information.
Right. Yep. And if you want my Facebook is Stephanie Loves Yoga.
Oh, that's a great
It's great.
Facebook page name.
Yeah.
So, do you have any plans? Because what it sounds like is on your YouTube channel, it's things you have done and you're filming that and posting it. Is that correct? For the most part, filming what you're doing with other groups or presentations. Do you have any plans to also maybe teach or develop classes that people can watch on YouTube? They can do the class with you on YouTube, maybe purchase your class. I don't know. I know a lot of what you do is individualized.
Yeah, some of what I do is individualized and in groups. Down the road, I do have a couple hundred yoga classes that at this point that are digital. We'll see if I end up posting them for purchase, some of these different series and special things I've done.
Because I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
Well, if there's a technical person out there that wants to help me with that project, it's a lot of videos. And there's a lot of technology that goes behind the scenes of just recording a simple yoga class. So
True.
if that all pulls together, you will see lots of them. But I do like doing live classes. I really like the personal connection with people. So that's really where my love is. But we'll see. We'll keep that in mind, Sarah.
Okay.
I do have a bunch of meditations that I've been doing. I work monthly with a group of therapists and doctorates and psychologists. They have a whole different background, but they're quite spiritual folks. And we call it the Jung Seminar. So I've had the good fortune of helping to lead this the last couple of years, kind of co-lead it. So we discuss either it's a whole bunch of Jung essays. This is Carl Jung, the famous psychologist from Switzerland. And so we'll either read essays monthly or we've had a couple books the last few years. So last year, I had chosen the book on chakras and archetypes with Carl Jung. So every month I taught a new meditation on whatever chakra we were doing. And we learned all about that particular chakra and energy system and kind of related it to our lives and how we're growing and learning from them. So I have those meditations I might put up on YouTube. And then this year, our theme has been nature and Carl Jung. So Carl Jung knew how important it was to learn about, just be immersed in nature. A lot of the things that he did always tie back to the primitive man and just connecting to trees and connecting to the nature of who we are as people and using nature as a reflection of that to find the stillness and to find the comfort of being who we are. So that's also been an important piece of my life.
Wow, it sounds like you're combining your knowledge of yoga and energy medicine in a lot of different areas, but all of them seem to have the thread of personal growth, just not necessarily one aspect of that growth. It's like you have many aspects that you're involved in, not just different ages, but different disciplines as well. That's pretty cool, Stephanie.
Yeah, I think this year has been really fun to work more with the nature theme, because I grew up in the woods for 18 years in the woods of Connecticut and the coast of Maine. And so it's been really fun to bring in the concepts of, you know, how do I teach nature in a guided meditation, or how do I bring nature to the kids that I'm working with and in these young meditations every month. So I've been really enjoying that, and hope to do more workshops on nature and yoga and mindfulness.
That makes sense.
Hey.
Very healing. I'm curious, do you have any specific preference in terms of the types of or clients that you would see? Because it sounds like you will pretty much work with anybody from very young to very old. In school, in a job, at home, that kind of job. Is there any particular thing you look for in a client when they come to you?
Well, at this point, my practice is becoming working with people over the long term. So people that want to work with me for 3 months, 3 to 6 months, or even longer at a time. Just so that we can establish new patterns and I can really be here as a support system. I know going through my own traumatic brain injury 4.5 years ago, you know, my physical therapist has been one of the mainstays in my life. And so going there weekly, I know how much that has really helped me as a person to have that place that I can go and voice all my concerns and get help weekly of what I can do next and how to adapt to my situation. So that's what I really love, helping people over, you know, 3 months or so or longer time. And that goes with, you know, the same with group classes with the kids. Like I love working with them for the whole semester. I've definitely noticed a difference in how I'm able to connect with them and really see their progression by spending more time with them.
Right.
So that's definitely what I like doing now.
Well, it definitely facilitates creating healthy habit patterns that they may actually do when they're not in a class with you. I know I did a similar thing when I was doing my internship for social work in the school system, and was teaching them meditation techniques, and being able to do that over a longer period of time was so effective that I had a lot of my naysayers who said, oh, you can't do anything with these kids, because I worked with the special education population, which are often in a public school, they're considered the behavioral problems. They aren't, but that's how they're perceived. And they just really took to meditation. I would think they'd like yoga even more. And in fact, when I was working in Colorado, several of the high schools, it was part of their physical education was to have yoga classes. And there was always like 30, 40 kids taking it at a time. So
Yeah, it's great to see some of these practices make it down into the school system. So it's great you're a part of that.
well, I was. I'm not doing
Yeah,
that
part of it.
anymore, but yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, so what you're doing, I mean, I totally get the wanting to have it be like for a semester, because it helps everybody, regardless of age, to create a habit pattern that way. That's going to serve them for the rest of their lives if they, you know, choose to maintain it. So yeah, I totally get that you'd want to do something that facilitates that person helping themselves. So,
Well, and you like to build community, so to be able to build relationships with people and build up that community is all makes perfect sense that you would love to do that.
Yeah, community is definitely part of my heart energy.
that's
That comes through very strong in your voice.
so. Is there anything else going on in your life related to all this work that you're doing? Because I can't imagine there would be, because I would think every waking minute is kind of busy at this point with all that you do. But is there anything else that maybe we haven't touched on?
I could just open up my calendar. I'm sure we could find something. I'm always taking new trainings just to kind of follow what I want to learn next. So I think right now I'm looking for a trauma sensitive training. It's something I've definitely touched upon in the 3,000 hours of training I've had so far, but I think that's next for me.
So that you can work with those TBI people who've had a traumatic brain injury more effectively.
Yeah, it's definitely a piece for that. And I've always wanted to work with kids or adults in more of a treatment facility. And so having just a little bit more knowledge of trauma sensitive yoga and how that can help people and how to create programs for kids in these types of facilities. There's a great organization out of Boston that I've been following for many years now. And so I definitely implement some of their work into my classes. And there's a lot of inclusivity going on, now with genders and with races. And that's definitely been a lot of my training. Even the last Love Your Brain facilitator training I took was very inclusive. As for other things I'm doing, right now I'm caring for a baby bird.
Yes, you did mention that.
So I'll be feeding the little bird shortly. I'm also always doing my own classes. So I think for just me, before my head injury, I was always hiking and bicycling and canoeing and being very active. So I've had to basically learn how to train myself now to be able to do these activities again, which I never had to do. So it's kind of a good thing. I'm learning how to train myself, and kind of a bad thing because I can't just jump off the couch and run 3 miles anymore. But going to physical therapy has helped. I was doing physical therapy at the gym. There was a PT gym, they called it. So I would go, I guess normal people go in for an hour, and I go for 2 hours just because I have to take time in between the different bicycles and the lifting weights with my arms. And then I'll finish with stretching and some Pilates moves to help my core get stronger. So all of that took, maybe somebody else could do it much faster, but I need like a full 2 hours. So that's been part of my last 4 months of training. And there's a new movement thing I've been doing for a while. I did a camp in like June last year, and now I've started a 4-month program with them. And it's really about how to move the body. It's kind of like personal training, but it's like another notch above it in being able to move the body efficiently, more from a function perspective. So it's not necessarily weights, but it's more using the body to do different squats and different lunges. And like I'm using my table to do pull-ups on the edge of my dining room table. and things like that. So that's been nice to add a different component. And you talked about, you know, the neurological and the brain, and definitely trying to keep going with these new brain patterns for myself. And then dancing. Dancing is another good movement. So I've taken some workshops in that. And so I'm just gonna continue learning all these new ways that I can train myself to get stronger so that I can continue to feel better and have less fatigue.
Well, that's interesting because one of our questions is often what makes the person we're speaking with, in this case you, unique and different from everyone else who does similar type work. And I would say definitely the fact that you have walked this walk makes you incredibly qualified to help others figure out what their path is as well. And that's part of what makes you so special and unique. So,
Yeah.
would you agree?
Yes, I do. I think these are all things that I do that not everybody else does.
Right.
If you're just a yoga teacher, you teach yoga. And I honestly have gotten kind of bored with some of the traditional yoga stuff. So it's like, how can you use the structure and this wonderful modality that, you know, we've been creating for thousands of years and still use it to be effective, and then bring in this element of that play and that, you know, uniqueness to each individual so that they can blend together. So
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. All righty then.
Well, Jante, do you have any more questions for Stephanie, or?
Well, I've really enjoyed everything that you've shared, and it's been inspirational. And I don't really have any questions unless there's some other stories or fond moments that you would like to share with us before we close today.
I guess right now I'm just thinking about how I grew up in the woods for 18 years. And when I was a kid, I hated it. In Connecticut, it was great because we were in a neighborhood and there were lots of kids and we can kind of play in the woods whenever we wanted to. But in Maine, we were so far away from everybody because I lived on a peninsula, and town, you know, was about 20 minutes away and you had to get your parents to drive you there. But I had fun. I had fun running with my dog down through the woods, down to the mud flats where the tidal river and all kind of the ocean water and the seaweed was. And I would just go bask in the sun in the woods and kind of hide away so nobody could find me. So when I was a kid, I hated that because I was so removed from people and my friends. But at the same time, at this point in my life, being 42 years old, like I really appreciate that foundation I had and connection I had with nature. And realizing, you know, even like the trees in Connecticut, when I was a little kid, those pine trees took care of me. And even those trees, when I was moving to Memphis, I had conversations with the pine trees and then the trees in the old growth forest here in Overton Park, you know, and it was just sort of like this continuation of like the old trees, again, sort of caring for me and comforting me here when I moved to Memphis. So there's some other kind of neat nature stories like that, but I've really been appreciating the foundation I did have and all the teachings from my mom and nature guides, and, you know, all the times learning how to fish with my grandparents and stories like that. So I just hope that we can continue to teach our kids about nature and how much it's here for us and how much we can use it to reduce our anxiety and really be a connection for people from our busy lives as technology increases and our worlds keep changing. Nature is always going to be there for us.
Yes.
That's true. Thank you for that reminder.
Yeah, well, thank you all for talking today. This has been really fun.
Thank you for coming. We've been looking forward to it for a few weeks now. So yay, we finally did it.
Yay.
Yeah. Yeah. All righty then. Well, I guess we'll all say goodbye then.
Oh, and then if you want to contact me, I can share should I share my information again?
Sure,
Sure.
go for it.
All right. So my website is Stephanie Congo, CONGO.com. You can find my contact information there. My email address is stephanielovesyoga@gmail.com. My Facebook page, you can find me under Stephanie Loves Yoga. And my YouTube channel, if you want to check out some videos that I've posted up there, kind of for some sprinkling of things, it's my name. So Stephanie Congo.
And again, I'll have all that posted on the outro of the
Yeah.
podcast. Fantastic.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Well, thank you for coming and sharing yourself with us today. We've really enjoyed it. And I think we all known you for quite some time. So it was interesting to hear your story from a different perspective again. And then remembering all the things that you do and that you keep growing and changing and are always looking for the I wouldn't say looking for the next big thing, but looking forward to what's coming next and how to incorporate what you do with your foundation with something new that's coming along. So thank you for sharing yourself with us today.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sarah, Sandy, and Jonte for hosting these.
All righty.
All right.
We hope you have enjoyed our conversation with Stephanie Congo. You can reach Stephanie at the website www.stephaniecongo.com. That's www.stephaniecongo.com. By email at stephanielovesyoga@gmail.com. stephanielovesyoga@gmail.com. At our Facebook page, Stephanie Loves Yoga, all one word, capital STEPHANIE, capital LOVES, capital YOGA. And on YouTube at Stephanie Congo, two words, capital STEPHANIE, and then the second word is capital CONGO. Please take a moment to visualize our planet Earth bathed in white light. Everything within, on, and surrounding the planet is filled with this white light. And all energies in whatever form are moving into and staying balanced for the highest good of all